welcome to Friday. How was your week? Give me the lowdown.
Pretty shitty. Um,
Sweet.
I was like, how am I going to check in with David on Friday? Um, but it's just, it's just to go through. I don't really know other than that how to explain it. I just, I've been a really bad client, really, honestly, over the last week and a bit, because I just even haven't even written. I haven't done anything. Like that's how I just get so low that I don't want to do anything. I
Uh-huh.
don't.
Yeah, well,
So
that's very human of you. You're not a bad client. There's there's no such thing.
well, there are okay, bad client maybe not be the right descriptive word, but there is a commitment level too, right? And that's important to honor.
Mhm.
And so that's top of mind for me, I think, because it's about doing things I've never done before and doing what I say I'm going to do. And eventually always do what I say I'm going to do. That is a pretty big statement, but it's generally speaking true. I almost always come around to doing what I intended or set out to do. But I don't know. There's just been so many. I don't know how to describe it. Just the stuff in my family ever since that day that I got the phone call. It's just never. It's just not been the same.
Mhm.
And there are so many incomplete things around that when they come up, I'm just right back on that day. Or if Grayson has a bad day, or he makes like a mistake that's very minor at this point, it just brings me back to that day. Like that day just is like fallback for me, and I'm having a really hard time like healing, like moving on from it. Like I knew trust was just there, right? I'm really having a hard time with the trust. I think that's what it is. It bogs me. It bogs my mind and bogs my heart, and then I'm not capable of being some of the other ways I like to be.
Mhm.
And
Inside of the trust is so it's such a fickle beast, eh?
she,
It we give it freely, and and it is so easily compromised. But that is we can't avoid it either. It's a excuse me, a constant. It's in constant flux, and there's always work to be done to either restore trust, restore integrity in order for trust to be
mm-hmm,
present, right? To put in what's missing, and to have the conversation for alignment, and
mm-hmm,
it's an ongoing that is also an ongoing commitment to continue to have those conversations. It's never a one and done.
and it's just a reoccurring conversation where Grayson's like, "Mom, like you have really got to get past this stuff." Like, so it can bog him down as well because I'm attached and not letting go.
So let's look at the ways of being that you get to explore and embrace in order
Mm,
to deal with powerfully
mm,
deal with
mm.
this current paradigm, right? This
Yeah,
circumstance.
this is the listener for growth and development sticks comes out to me because in every challenge is an opportunity or a possibility. It's up here. I know that.
Yeah, intellectually it makes total sense.
So does absolutely. Um, so it's I can when I say that and look at that and feel that I feel that there's space for me to grow and develop in listening to myself. I'd like to be able to also say that there is a space for me to grow and develop by listening to Grayson.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not much to listen to in terms of verbal communication. So that means I really need to look deeper.
Yeah, because verbal communication is only one way we communicate.
7%.
7%. So you're
Yeah.
no wonder you are where you are, because you're looking for the 7% and not seeing the rest, right? The 93%.
Yeah.
It's tiring
Yeah.
just looking for the 7%.
Jeez. Hey?
So how do
Yeah. So
you?
I'm doing that in business too, right?
Oh, well, yeah, totally. I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get
I'm doing that in business too. God damn.
it.
Because that's really what I wanted today's call to be about, was moving forward. What are some opportunities that I can put into place, take advantage of to keep moving the pendulum forward, because it just does feel stuck.
Yeah.
But it feels stuck because of what you're saying, because I'm looking for, that 7%, or in business, I'm looking for, really, I'm getting fixated on what's not going well, and not looking for what is going well, which lives in the world of possibility, which means it's an opportunity that I have to create, a space that I have to open up, because it's not going to be someone else to open it up for me.
No, even though we try,
Yeah.
and these conversations certainly help, but then after the call, you're left to your own devices again.
Mm-hmm. Well, and after our last call, I had some really great, cool things happen. And it's just, but if I describe my day, like I can have, some high moments and then some terribly low moments in that same day. When I went to get Andrews, I was gone Monday, Tuesday. And when I drove out to Fernie area, I mean, I was feeling free, and I was feeling like moments of hope. And I just, I was driving through nature and just enjoying the ride and listening to my music and da da da. So awesome. And then I got there and all was well. And it wasn't until when I got back to the city and then got back to my house that it felt like there was just darkness just waiting for me to walk back into.
Mm.
So the thing that I'm part of creating that darkness, for sure. Right? You can't just say, oh, this is like, I have nothing to do with it. It's just all circumstances and events. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
But there is, like a looming darkness that I have had part in creating that awaits me. And it lives like it seems to live in my house. Like it's not as much when I go to the office. It's almost like I can kind of escape it.
Escape it, but never deal with it.
Right? Escape it. Oh, and I was just listening to a podcast about that. Compassion fatigue is actually not about self-care, where you like do things to escape what you do, but actually you need to lean more into what you do. In other words, more compassion actually decreases compassion fatigue, which is counterintuitive.
It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's completely counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read a quote to you.
Yeah.
If the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. The guilty one is not he who commits the sin, but the one who causes the darkness.
Where is that from, and how timely is that?
It's fucking crazy how timely it is. This is being pulled from a podcast that I with a guest of mine that I haven't been producing it. It was somebody else who produced it. He pulled that quote, and it was a conversation that I had with this guy. His name's Evan Woolen. He's Evan Woolley. He's a local counselor, a politician, about my brother and his journey and who he was for people. And I'm just like, where did this come
Okay,
from?
can you say that again?
If the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. The guilty one is not he who commits the sin, but the one who causes the darkness. When you hear that quote, what do you hear for yourself?
Well, if I continue to create a dark place, because I am a cause in the matter there, and I'm pretty aware of that. It may not be necessarily me who does something that would be classified as a great sin. I mean, there's lots of little things that are sins too, but that might just be the perfect storm or conditions to create for others in my home to fall off.
Whoa. Right? The and not to have it be a weight either, right? Like it's just, and it's not the truth either. It is a place to stand, something to embrace and acknowledge and be empowered by. This conversation. So it's so fascinating. This conversation. I'll give you the little snippet. You can listen to it later. The conversation that this he got inspired by. Why isn't the chat? Oh, there it is. The conversation he was inspired by in this little content snippet that he pulled out about my brother. So it comes right back around now, full circle, about who he was for people. He was the light in the dark places, and that is why they caught his killers. Is because there were sins committed, and he committed many sins, and he was also um, he was a light in the dark places. He wanted to do right by people in the best way that he knew how, and out of that there was a resolution that came because his killers were caught. Is that the ideal circumstance that you would want for your boy? No, of course not. And therein lie the lesson, right? Like it's just life is completely unpredictable. But who we are causing the matter for is not, does not have to be. It can be stewarded and guided and directed and influenced, and um, and it takes something to do that too.
You said something, I don't know if you heard yourself say this. You said, who I am causing the matter for.
Yeah.
I've always been causing the matter for myself. But the way you just said that is like, no, actually, that is how I can stop creating darkness and start creating more light, because I'm not doing it for me. Truly. Like I am a cause in the matter, not for me, but for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And then, wow.
So it really, I really understand where you're coming from, because I am in it with you in my own ways, right? Dealing with my own darkness, and uh, and seeing the light every once in a while by measure of the actions that I took. And sometimes I'm aware that that is what happened, that I was causing the matter for that, and that I can continue to be causing the matter for a possible future, a future that has me fulfilled, has my family fulfilled, and and then there are moments where that possibility is not there. It does not exist, and I come in and out of those on the regular. The simple solution is, of course, to share where you're at, and that is not easy to do, because we do not want to reveal our darkness or our sins?
The more conversations recently, in conversations that I've been having over the past, let's say 10 days or so, when somebody asks me how I am, I'm like, my typical answer is, I'm just really up and down. Like it's just a really hard time. And people's typical response is, first of all, they're surprised because they're like, really? Like, that's just not the typical vibe I give off, I guess. People never think that I'm going through a hard time. But what it does is it opens up, and it has opened up conversations then where they're like, oh, I've been the same way. Or like, oh, I've been, and I'm just like sharing in an intimate relationship with somebody who's able to just feel what they're feeling because I've allowed myself to share what I've been feeling. And it depends on the level of, professional or personal connection, and right. But I'm just sharing it, whether it goes somewhere into deeper conversation or not is not up to me per se. But sharing that is what I'm realizing is important.
Yeah, it is important, and it is hard to do. But in taking that action, that is where more of possibility lives.
Mhm.
It's a generated activity.
You know what? If
Yeah.
we do more of that, that is what's missing when we don't experience empathy. The reason why we don't experience empathy is because we don't bloody talk about our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Like the podcast I was listening to this morning was talking about, which is kind of cool that there's actually some research around this, because it's like, compassion, about compassion. I can't remember what he called it, but he called it a term. And he basically said, empathy, you can't have compassion without empathy, because empathy plus action equals compassion. And so how do we get compassion if we don't talk about our feelings? Because empathy is when it's, the pain center of your brain is activated because you feel the pain of somebody else's emotion. That means you're feeling that emotion. It doesn't mean you have to take it on, but you feel it, you connect with them, you resonate, God. And if we just talk about how we feel, then what is the possibility from that?
When we have peace without passion, we are unable to move forward because we have that ignition doesn't exist. We are atrophied. Without peace as a guide for passion, we go crazy.
For sure. I think
Lack
what
of
you're saying
physical
is like
activity.
it leads to just wasting away, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All of what you have made claims and aspired to do and be just goes away. It dies. It dies
Mm-hmm.
because we do not have we have not allowed ourselves to drive it forward, to embrace a new way of being. And so, yeah, we might be at peace. We might think we're at peace with ourselves. We're complete, but we're not complete because we are not, our best selves are not being realized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we can't distinguish the discord that we experience other than something is off.
Yeah. So there's just so much power in noticing what's off. And that is something I have been, ironically welcome and open to, because it's, again, it's that messy spot that I don't really love feeling this way. And I know there's lots of things I could do so that I don't feel this way. And at the same time, it's like, well, why am I feeling this way? That brings about being a cause in the matter, what you've done to contribute, like there's so many things there. If I don't learn from this and grow from this, then there'd be no purpose in feeling it. But
That's where you atrophy.
yeah.
And here's the other thing.
S-
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just you said, there's a new way of being that comes from.
Yeah.
It's not a task. Like, yes, it's an action, but it's also so connected to an identity.
Inside of all of this work and what I believe to be true for, but like not the truth, but a truth, is in the power of sharing our most scary and darkest lessons.
Hmm.
And it's not like it's a lesson that has happened and hasn't happened again. And so, hindsight and um, the top list of things not to do when this circumstance arises. No, it's an ongoing, and the ongoing grapple that is your stand for X, and it only gets momentum, power, when we share it freely with others. And that is the thing that stops most of us, because we don't know. The narrative internally is always about the uncertainty of doing that. A gentleman that I had on the podcast did not want to listen to his own podcast because he was worried that he might sound stupid. Um, his notions would be ridiculous, or like whatever the narrative was, it actually prevented him from embracing who he was in the world, is in the world. Like, listen, man, this is you, right? And the notion, the story that we have in our mind is that's not true. And then he listened to it, and he realized that it was none of it was true. And he might attribute it to my ability to curate a conversation, but in all honesty, that wasn't what happened. I just got rid of what was not necessary, was not contributing to the conversation he was driving, and just got rid of it. Well, isn't that the opportunity for all of us to just get rid of the fluff and the superfluous and the negative chatter, either externally or internally, and just get to the heart of what really matters in the conversations? That's just a life skill. Some of us actually do really well, but think we are not good at it because
Mm-hmm.
we don't have it echoed out into the world, right? For all of those reasons. But that is what's necessary in the vision for my future, for the future of humanity, as I started to express it and articulate it, which, by the way, I did. I spent a whole bunch of time writing about it, and really pulling it apart. Like, what does this future that got created way back in 2017 actually mean? And uh, all of it is inside of this. It came from this place of expressing one's objectives in the world in a context for business, right? Building a brand and supporting in a marketing communication strategy. But it was trapped also in that paradigm, because the bigger conversation for what's possible always got sidelined with the short-term objectives. Nothing wrong
Mm.
with that, but then you lose sight of the reason why we're doing what we're doing. And then you get to a point where you lift your head up from having done all the work, and you're like, where am I? What is going on right now? Is this actually what I wanted? Honestly, not knowing, because you didn't reflect back to its intentions that were generated, way back when, and in an
Mm-hmm.
active, actively looking and being sourced by it, reminded by it. And I've had this thing here, sitting here, right? It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a client's one right there too. I'd love to have all my clients' visions of the future here. I don't know why I don't do that. It's a thing to do, I suppose. To be reminded of everybody's audacity to make claims that for the average person is uh, ridiculous, a ridiculous notion. And do you want it? Do I want it? Do I want this vision of the future? Well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
of course I want it, but I need to be reminded of it, and I need to spend time with it, and it's just that, and it's about the sharing of it with others, which I haven't been doing. You pointed it to me. He's like, "Where is yours?" I'm like, "Where is mine? It's over my desk. Nobody knows about
Now.
it." No, it's always been on my desk, but it's never been public.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's
Yeah.
always been
Yeah.
there. It's been there
Yeah.
since 2017, right? But
Hmm.
what good is my vision if I'm not sharing it?
Yeah.
How effective could it actually be?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then you share it, and then
Well, then you don't know you don't know what's going to happen then. But you don't know
well, you
how
have to
it's going
share. I think you have to share it. You have to share it, share it, share it, share it, share it. Like even putting out my little vision of the Juliana, I'm like, all right, well, that wasn't enough. I
to.
mean, it was enough at the moment, but it's not enough.
It's about distilling it and expanding on it and deepening it and
Right.
contextualizing it and conversing about it with others who have an alignment in one way or another. um, and inside of that is where the opportunity for what's next presents itself,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where possibility lives. It lives in our generation generating of the future.
Mm-hmm.
It does not live in keeping it closed off and to ourselves. Possibility does not live there. Darkness
Yeah.
lives there.
Yeah. Right. There is no possibility in darkness.
Oh my God, no. I mean, there's always possibility in darkness, and it's a fuck ton more work. I mean, you gotta get to clarity. Then you got to be able to see where you're going, and it's very hard in
Mm-hmm.
darkness to see where you're going, but you
So
can
it's
get
not
there.
quite that way. So somehow, well, the fact that there's lightness, that there's light, means that even from darkness, possibility can emerge.
Yeah,
Uh,
the brightest spot in a dark place is where there's light. It seems like an obvious thing to say, but where do you go when it is dark place? You search for the light,
mm-hmm.
right? And it's easily seen too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You could see it from miles, and it might just be a flicker, but it is there, and it serves as a guide. How much more effective can a bright light be?
Well, that's a really good way of just talking about, negative emotions. Just
Did you start the book yet with Jill Bolt? Have you read that book?
I purchased it,
Oh,
and it
nice.
is coming with me this weekend. So
You will really enjoy that book,
yeah,
because it is about navigating the darkness with your people, namely your four characters in
my
you.
four peoples in my brain.
That's right,
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I'm very excited about this book.
because they are necessary, in fact, non-optional companions on your journey.
Mm-hmm.
You might think you don't want them
Um,
there. You don't have a choice.
no, and so that's when I feel really like I even canceled a phone call this week because I couldn't. I just was like, I am so low right now. There's no point in me talking to you unless I'm just gonna cry the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And even the week before, I made a phone call and she's like, oh, I didn't think I'd hear from you. And I said, I just haven't been at my best lately. And I was just kind of waiting for a moment where I did feel at my best to call you. I never met her, but that's what I said. And then she shared with some of the struggles she was going through, and I'd never met her. um, it's not that I shared a lot of the struggle. I was just open to like, yeah, there's no sense in me talking to you about, my vision for the future and what you do and what your vision of the future is if I'm not my best right now. So I just wait for those moments. So I think I just I'm not sure if this is the best thing, but it just feels like I have been having so many low moments that I've just allowed to just be, and they just are, and I sit in them and I whatever. There does come a place where I'm like, okay, like this conversation we're talking about just no longer being a cause in the darkness, but being, finding that light and being a cause in it. It's just, I, that's what I need right now. Like I cannot continue to just create darkness or sit in darkness. And maybe this is part of the learning and the growing right now. Just that even in this darkness, there's been that light that's been way over there, and that's what I need. I need to. That's that moving forward, moving through instead of sitting in, because I can't continue to sit. I don't want to continue to sit in it. So maybe it feels like I'm at a place where the learning is so that I can move through it and out of it. And maybe not out of it, but just through it. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have the tools to be able to navigate the inevitability of it arising again, because it's not like, oh, phew, no more darkness. We dodged that bullet, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
like darkness again. We're like, fuck, I I thought I didn't have to deal with this again.
Well, that's been the last month or so.
Yeah,
So, and I know it's not hormonal because it'd be like, because I thought like maybe it's got to be something related to
oh,
women hormones or
that's a
whatever. But
societal.
this is clearly not, because it's not every 3 weeks. It's like every 3 days. Like,
It's
okay.
deeper than that.
It's deeper than that. So that is basically what happens when we're in between calls.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I will tell you, there's a lot that I know to do, and I don't feel like doing it. I
Yeah,
don't
me
feel like
too.
exercising. I don't feel like eating healthy. I just don't feel like it. And the one thing I have been doing, which is keeping me afloat, is I've been like socially very active. Like I have been seeing people I haven't seen in a really long time, reaching out to people to just like, hey, like how are you? Like it's been 2 years kind of thing. And some of those lead to like, hey, let's meet up, and with some really great people who are not fixers in the world, but they're feelers. And yeah, great conversations. And even though it's just still momentary, it is the one, instead of like, retreating and going within, I am connecting with other people. And so that's good to actually see that as I'm talking to you, because there are a lot of things that I'm not doing, but there is a really important thing that I am doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and now, and it's always then a conversation for, and now what, with what I now understand,
Yeah.
what are my steps that I will take,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we need. Here's, I'm clear that the contrasting experience of life is required. You can't know what you don't want, or you can't know what you do want unless you know and have experienced what you don't want. And so you're aware of it as you navigate the world. that does not mean you have to stay inside of what you don't want either, right? And the conversations that you have with people are, we our dream is our dream, my vision for the future is my vision for the future, and I cannot do it on my own. Well, that's where the conversations come from then, right? And
Mhm.
find the right fit, that everybody is there because they choose to be there, and they want to be there, and they are also doing their part to achieve that bigger objective, because they also want to achieve that bigger objective. And you don't find those people easily. They're not easily found, because everybody's got their own objective for the future. So it is about having the conversations, and I get to remind myself of this on the regular. And then there are those moments where I have conversations with people where it's like, oh man, yeah, that is a great reminder of why I say I'm doing what it is that I want to do, because of what these people are up to, and what's possible if they could actually be successful in what it is that they're up to in the world. And maybe I help them, maybe not, but at the very least, the conversation that I had with them gave me a little bit more. And then what do I do with it? Do I rest on my laurels in the safety of the certainty of that initial conversation until it dries out, right? That small little reserve of possibility, and then find myself in darkness again? Or do I
Mm.
move something forward with that? And that is the choice, right? Decide, what are you going to do now, having that moment of possibility and inspiration, and that little bit extra, you feel like you could do it all. What are you going to do in that moment then?
Well, this is what I know that makes sense right now. The one thing that I am doing is connecting with people. So I need to continue to do more of that with intention, not just like a social connection, but every kind of connection, professional, non-professional, whatever, people that are close to me, not so close to me, to have conversation. And then my thought is, because I feed off of ideas and connecting and conversations, it feeds my soul, that I can create a discussion topic and just invite people I know to just come and talk about a topic.
That sounds
And
amazing.
maybe bring like, and have it be topics that matter to what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
And bring maybe even send out a research article on it prior to discussing it, just so there's some background on, so what do you think about this? Or where can we go from this? Or what can we learn from this? Or how do we apply this? Or
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great way to
yeah.
drive intention with the conversation. And sometimes, I mean, I had a conversation with I went to junior high with him. I'm 42 now. It's been a few years,
Just a few.
just a few, and we've stayed in contact. And I haven't been in contact with very many during my schooling years. But for some reason, this guy uh, was always around in some way or another. And we went for a drink 2 days ago, and there is something so. And it turns out he consumes all of my content. Like he listens to my stuff when he's mowing the lawn. I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah,
Like, are
your
you pulling
stuff's
my
so
leg?
good, David.
Thank you. He's like, yeah, totally. And I love it. I enjoy all of it. I'm like, wow. Because the notion that the cynical guy inside of me is like, oh, dude, what are you doing? If this is, anyways, I'm not going to go there, but you get it.
Well, even I will just add to that before you go on. The podcast you did with can't remember who you did it with, but you were talking about truth quite a bit in the
Was it a
conversation.
recent one
Yeah, I think so.
with
Anyways.
Brian Croker from
Okay.
Raw?
Yeah. And like I was listening to that in my one of my darkest moments.
Hmm.
Like you you're an inspiration. You just inspire people. So anyway,
Thank you.
go on.
Yeah. Well, it really got real with him too, and and I what's just so great is I had no idea um, what the output of that conversation was going to be, what we were going to talk about,
Mhm.
and it didn't matter. And so there is those that have a real drive and intention, and then there are those that are just free spirited and full of adventure.
Mm,
And to your point, we need both, right? We need some that drive with some focus and direction, and then we need those that are just enable us to be free to be.
yeah.
And it's the balance of both of those worlds that give us the fuel to keep the light on, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly when I look to those three things I wrote down. That's exactly what would keep my light on.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's been keeping my light on, even though my light is dim. It's still on
Yeah,
because, yeah,
I will not let it go out.
no.
It's not possible. And that's the thing, right? We need to be reminded. I had no idea, right? And I have no idea the real impact of what it is. Let me take that back. I get it. There's conversations. You mentioned things, and there are others that mention things, and in that moment, it is well received and understood, and that's where like that little bit extra is there now to do a little bit more, right? Uh, and sometimes it's not enough because you're tapped out, right? My calendar. Oh my god, this is so funny. My calendar notifies me and it says creation block update with a single focus. That's what the notification was. So that's apparently what I'm doing after this call
After this call.
is a creation block with a focus.
Sounds like you're prepared.
Yeah. It all lives in community and conversation is really what I'm pointing to. And here's another thing that I'm going to request. I would love to be able to actually use this conversation to serve both of our agendas and have it be a public conversation. I will go through and do kind of like a once over and kind of clean it up a little bit if you are not object to it and you're happy to. I can send it to you before we do it as well. But I feel like this is right up your alley, anyways.
Well, I didn't say anything that shouldn't be heard.
Right. Yeah. Even those things that we feel like shouldn't be heard really should be heard.
Well,
Because,
just go ahead.
well, it sets the precedent for what it is that we want to have happen in the world, right? We are blazing the trail. What's there for you right now?
Well, I just don't feel like I'm blazing,
Oh, you're
but I'm
blazing.
I'm still on the trail, and just I don't think I've ever said this out loud to another person. There are just moments where I'm just not sure I want to be on the trail at all,
Yeah.
and I just ask myself, like, what is this trail leading me to, leading my family to, leading elders to, leading my friends to, and why have I not been able to make as much of a difference as I want to make? That's the thought I have at that moment. Maybe there is a difference that I am making that I don't see.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I get up the next morning and continue to walk on the trail. And there's times where you blaze and run, and then there's times where you just walk.
Or crawl.
And there's times that you just sit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if I've ever been in a place in my life where I actually questioned why I'm living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there's no plan, there's no like, you know, I'm going to end my life, but there's a question of, well, why am I here? And why is the difference I feel like I was born to make not happening?
Hmm. Consider that it is.
And then you have to consider that it is, and you just can't see it right
Yes. Because
now.
uh, I deal with the exact same narrative. Now, if you and I are dealing with the exact same narrative, do you think we're the only ones dealing with that exact same narrative? Like, not in the least. Out of the, what is it, 8 billion people, there are many, 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 countless people who are dealing with that exact same narrative. And so, inside of the darkness, we get to bring the light. And that is why we're here. And nowhere in the agreement that we signed, if we signed an agreement, I don't remember, did it say, if there was an agreement, that it would be easy and that it would just come to you. It did talk about flow and experiencing fulfillment and meaning. But I imagine in the fine print, it also said something about trial and tribulation and resignation and doubt and cynicism and like all of these other things uh, that we try and avoid to the best of our ability, but actually can't, because it's part of the journey. It's part of the journey, and I would bet that anyone who is in the spotlight, the perception that they've made it, that they've got all of their shit figured out, that their journey was exactly the same. But we don't see that. We don't see the progression of that journey. We see the overnight success, right? We see uh, billions of dollars and big offices and teams of people um, creating things that are unheard of. We do not see the struggle because we're not looking for the struggle. We want to be inspired by people and what they've achieved, but we are rarely inspired by that. We're actually inspired by the struggle.
We generally speaking don't share enough of the struggle.
No, because we're in it. To your
And
point earlier, you didn't fill your journal, right?
no.
So you don't even share it with yourself. The struggle, even the wins, we rarely, because we're so flying high, like, it
Mhm.
feels so great. And then I look at my book and that page is empty. I'm like, damn, that would,
Well,
you know.
and there's also, having story time or conversation with somebody who, you know, is viewed as or feels themselves having had achieved X goal or dream or whatever. They're experiencing what, we call success. And even when they share the story of their struggle, they're not sharing the story of their struggle in the struggle itself.
No, right.
And it's so easy to say, yeah, I felt that way. I did this. Like, look, bloody hell. Like, I actually right now feel there is no light in my dark tunnel. It truly feels black. And if I see the light, it's there for like a really short moment of time. And all I'm learning to do right now, like yesterday, simple little thing, Graham brought home something from the grocery store. And he's like, oh, did it make you happy? And I said, yes, it brought me a moment of joy. It's a
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And that's really all that I have is just these moments. And interestingly enough, if I reflect on the last maybe 2 weeks where it's been really so low, it's what I notice more. Like it's kind of a numbing. The darkness is kind of numbing. But if I reflect back, what I notice are those moments of joy, of hope, of laughter, of compassion. Yeah. So
Well,
that's what I build on to.
yeah. And you here's the thing that I really need you to get, Josephine, it's that you are doing that by design, by your design. You are holding those moments, however fleeting they might occur, at a higher level so that it gives you more power than you realize. That is not an automatic way of being for human being. That is an intentional creation and design by your hand. Do you get that?
I think so.
Yeah. And it might not feel like, and yeah, so what? Who fucking cares? Like, but it is the necessary things that we do that we dismiss because it's so automatic that had we not have those things in place, we'd be in a very different mindset
Yeah.
and a capacity to actually continue to do what we know to do.
Yeah.
And you're right, we need more conversation about the journey of it, archived in a moment in time. And this has been a thing I've known about for a very long time, and I've tried my best, and I get the trying is, I mean, that's part of the issue, right?
Yeah. Actually, I remember when I was on Facebook, Connie Jacob shared from her vehicle, like
Yes.
the absolute sorrow of what she was dealing with her son,
Yeah. Oh, powerful.
and how powerful that was, and how much community that created.
Yes. Maya and
Like,
I had ran a podcast about it. We talked about it on our podcast.
mm,
The ripple,
mhm.
the ripple in
So,
vulnerability.
and yeah, and I actually this week I was like, damn it, I need to actually do a video of like just that. Like, this sucks. This part really sucks. This is what's actually happening.
Well, consider you just did.
Yeah.
Like, this is recorded. I will
Yeah.
produce it and I will put it out there. So you asked and you got what you asked
Yeah.
for.
But even just know that there is emotion in this conversation with you, but I'm not feeling low right now.
Yeah, I know.
So, right, like so this is even still
On the
the
high side.
talk that's post,
Yeah.
yeah, post darkness.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
right, because this is a conversation where I'm describing where I've been for the last 5 days, knowing that, and seeing, actually seeing, which is the difference today, because today I can actually see a light that's a little bit more permanent than some fleeting moment of joy or whatever it was that I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So because when I'm low, there is no light. I don't see any light. I don't feel any light. It feels completely hopeless, futile, lonely. It's just complete numb to everything, to all the beauty that even exists in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it doesn't just I don't just feel it by sitting in my whatever, my house that I call my house of darkness right now. No, but the whole entire like 5 hour drive was like, I felt it, but I was also in it. I was in the beauty of the world. So, but when you're in darkness, you don't feel like putting yourself into a place where you're going to see the light. You just, all you see and feel is dark.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go get my son. I had no choice. He needed he needed to get back home. So I didn't feel like going. And I actually remember telling Graham, I don't really feel like going. He's like, you'll be okay when you get there. I'm like, well, I just got to trust that I will be, and I have to go because Andrew needs to get home. And sure enough, that's exactly what it was like the whole way out, the whole way there, like, and being there, because I was in it. I removed myself. If you call my house my dark place right now, I removed myself from the dark. But when you're in the dark, you don't even feel like removing yourself from the dark. What you feel like is crawling under a blanket, sleeping, drinking.
Yeah. Whatever vice
Yeah.
is available and easy to access.
Good thing one drink does a lot for me. So
Yeah, totally.
But for some people, one drink isn't enough.
Yeah. Well, and for some people, one drink sets them on a path that they are almost impossible to come back from. Here's one thing that I would encourage as part of this strategy, because I grapple with wanting to share in the moment, and in the moment, it's like I'm gonna record a video about me, like
Hmm.
seriously, and of
Yeah.
course, it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
So, in combating that, what I found seemed to work really well is first writing about it. The writing about it is really where you give yourself the freedom and the space to distinguish and define and make it real. Right? It is no longer, excuse me, and no longer an abstract circumstance, but a very tangible, um, defined circumstance. Right? Now, for me, it's left at the writing, and it's never shared. Right? I don't share it, and my coach is constantly saying, "Dude, you have a reservoir of insight and perspective and knowledge, and you just get to share it."
Hmm.
And right away, Magnus, he's my get shit done guy. Okay, that's his name, Magnus. He's like, "Yeah, but how are you gonna put that into something? Like it's not a good use of your time and energy right now. You got to do something that is going to generate an ROI." It's,
Mm.
no, it never happens, right?
Mm.
And so it never happens. But what I'm seeing, and what I've been doing naturally, it lives inside of a story being told. And whether it's a video or it's a audio, which I feel has more freedom to be in the emotion of it, to then push the audio out, right? The reading of what you wrote in an audio form, to share it. There's something there.
Hmm.
Podcasts are a huge thing right now, right? And it's the act of telling story in that way is powerful.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you to maybe take that on as a strategy, as part of the strategies for communicating yourself, writing to audio to video, should that be the sequence that it goes
Hmm.
in. Have you heard of anchor.fm before?
No.
So it is basically a free podcasting platform on an app
Oh, okay.
on your phone. You can
Yeah.
produce and publish a podcast like that.
Oh, okay.
So I would encourage you to explore that further.
What's it called again?
Anchor,
Okay.
anchor.fm.
I have two boys, Graham and Grayson, gotta go at
Yep,
11:15.
no worries.
Um, I also, yeah, a couple little things, but I'm going to be on some podcasts, which is also an opportunity to sort of go there. So
Yes, absolutely. What do you need to be complete? What do you need to say to be complete?
just, no, it was just, I think it was just, for me, it was just good to have this hour because more time has passed. It's almost like a full reflection of so much, processing so much, and then, but there's also clear direction to move forward. Does that make sense? And the biggest thing that came from me from this conversation was that I've been on myself because I felt like I'm not doing anything for my well-being, but that is a lie.
It's a
So
lie,
that's not
totally.
true at all. So from that I can build and I can learn and grow, which is exactly the first thing we talked about in the beginning was who do I get to be? I need to learn and grow. Right?
Hmm.
Listen to learn and grow. So
Yeah,
duh.
really great. Awesome. Well, thanks for being you and
Mm.
embracing all of that, and being willing to have the conversation, because that it makes all the difference
It does.
for
Yeah.
everybody involved.